Alrighty, we're on.
Hey
Hello.
everyone,
Welcome to TFT.
Tarot for today. Divine Dabblings with,
Oberon.
and me, Banshee.
Hello, everyone. And welcome to our special edition once again.
Our cats are running around here if you hear any commotion. This is our special edition of our U.S.
USA.
forecast for the year 2020.
I thought we were going to say that in tune. Oh,
No.
well.
Can't always do everything in tune, I'm sorry. So, at any rate, we did a big reading for the United States, if you're not aware, and it was 6 cards. And we decided, because we didn't go into detail on any particular card, and the cards were amazing for that first reading, we felt we needed to go into detail and tackle each question from that first reading individually. So does that
now
cover
we've
it?
done right. So now we've done first an illumination on the first card, which was a focus for the year, and that was the death card. And then we've also done the actual first card, which pertained more to the economic sectors of the USA, and that was the reversed Eight of Wands. So you can both look those up as separate
Yes.
YouTube videos, along with the very first one, which just kind of set the whole stage. Now we're going to talk about,
U.S. global relations for the year 2020.
and in our original reading, we had pulled the reversed, whoops, let me hold for it, King of Swords.
King of Swords. And so
reversed.
I sense here this is either, if we're talking about the U.S. and global relations, I'm looking at that as a card that's representing the U.S. Oh, and by the way, let's do our disclaimer before we get started with this reading. This is for entertainment purposes as always, and we're just having fun and trying to see if we can predict some of the trends and things that will be happening for the U.S. in 2020.
So if you think we're saying this 100% is true and accurate, no, 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 no.
It could be, though.
But it could be, and
That's
what
what we
you
wanna
glean
see.
from it is what we hope you are able to glean from it. We have only our best intentions with this. This is
Well, this is a
new for
challenge
us in
for
a way,
us,
right?
and we
Yeah.
wanted to give it a try. And the other thing is, we did Brexit videos that were very popular about the Brexit issue overseas, and we did predict a few things there, I have to say, Mr. O.
I mean,
So it just did.
we've read for decades and decades, mostly for people and situations, and now we want to turn our talents to some of these larger, kind of
Issues.
societal or our overarching
Issues.
issues.
And also, we just want to say we're going to try to remain objective. We are not promoting any political point of view here. We're merely telling you what the cards tell us. And if I had to look at that card, Mr. O, as representative of the United States, maybe how the global powers see us, what would you say to that?
Well, it would almost look like, in a way, that there was sort of an interloping kind of sense of divisiveness, that this person may be a person in power, but that maybe the way that they render judgments or situations may have a cleaving apart kind of status to it. And this could be saying that people are not looking at the USA as the same kind of world power that it was before, that maybe they're looking at it and saying it's sort of making different kinds of decisions than it
Right,
was
because
known
we're
to make.
depersonalizing it and making it representative of the country now. And so what I'm thinking is that that the world is looking at us with different eyes, more harsher eyes in a way, and more critical. And I feel that maybe they feel that we aren't the, I hate to say it, but we aren't the social justice champions we look to be in the past, because this is showing, signs of a cruel exterior. They're looking at us as being cruel, harsh, judgmental. That's sort of what I see.
Right, a lot of times the King of Swords sort of has the aspect of being a judge of some sort, and then when it's reversed, it does seem to imply a judge who maybe is a lot harsher than we would want a judge to be. So this could be saying that if other countries are looking at us, they're seeing us that way. They're sort of seeing that we don't have the true best interests at heart.
And I guess conversely, if we were looking at this as the U.S. looking at global relations, I would say that indicates that we ourselves are looking at things through harsh eyes, and we feel too that the world is not working with us. We're feeling that we're on opposite sides of the coin lately or something.
Swords in general portrays a kind of more forceful attitudes, more given towards, force. So that goes along with it too.
So Shuffle, well, I explained that now we're going to look at U.S. global relations more in depth. I've created some questions that we're going to try to answer to get a little bit more into what might be going on with U.S. global relations in the year ahead. All right. So the first card, well, let's shuffle and cut, but the first card is going to be, the first card is going to be what will be happening with trade and economic relations, internationally between countries, between the U.S. and other countries. Let's see generally what the cards have to say about that.
All right.
And our first card is, the Nine of Wands reversed. And that's really interesting to me. It seems, why don't you go first?
Can you say the position's meaning again?
Oh, the trade, what's going to happen in trade and economic relations, with other countries, the U.S. and other countries.
Well, this looks like barely holding even, if that. It more or less looks to me like maybe that some on either side of that question may feel a little bit roughed up by what trade has been doing. We have a lot of stakeholders on the American side who haven't appreciated the recent tariff wars and trade wars, but it could be easy to see that on the other side of that equation, there are also people too who don't necessarily feel like they are up for this battle. And the whole thing is that this kind of stuff, if it is talking about the trade wars, which I sort of feel
Maybe
it is,
it could.
that it just sort of lends itself into more isolationism between various countries, or it could.
Well, when I look at that card, I think, I'm thinking maybe in a way that we're now that we may be paying a price this year for doing things that we weren't prepared to do. We didn't prepare properly for, I guess is what I'm saying. Maybe some of the changes and trade deals that we've been working on in this past year, I don't know if we've prepared for the ramifications or consequences that will come out of this, that they may not be what we thought they would be. That's kind of what it looks like to me. And I think partners in the situation are both feeling, maybe let down by the other.
I'll go with that.
Because also when I look at that card there's two people there, and they're kind of looking warily at each other, or warily. So I'm thinking that, there's not a lot of trust either. Right. Which is what you need when you're preparing to do battle, which is what this card is kind of about.
The implication could be that because these things are breaking down established systems of product delivery,
business too, yeah,
business, that's a real big concern too. That who can people rely upon when these systems begin to be
shift and change.
We'll just say that. Alrighty. So our next position
number 2 is diplomatic relations. What's going to be happening with diplomacy? Oh, this card has appeared before for us in other readings.
We have this in a recent reading for the USA predictions. It's the 3 of Pentacles, and it's in an upright position.
Well, I feel pretty good about this because, frankly, I'm just going to give my personal opinion on this, and it's not as much political as I kind of worried in the last year. It seemed like we were floundering with diplomacy. Some things that we've done may have, opened up bigger rifts or things to happen. So maybe they needed to happen. I'm not going to say. But, now I'm seeing as though we are thinking things through more. We are working harder on, you know, what the end game is. What is the end product? What is the end game we wish to get out of our relations with some of these countries? And we're thinking about that more, and it'll be better.
Well, I think that maybe the thing that is sort of not always seen in this card is that the setting is in a church or a pseudo church.
Uh-huh.
The pentacles don't look like most churches that we are aware of today. But maybe this idea is that this is talking about the adoration to some degree for the arts and for culture, and that maybe this ties into how diplomatic ties and relations can be reignited or reemphasized or rebonded is by acknowledging our shared cultures and our shared enthusiasm for the best of those cultures and those situations. And then maybe on some degree, maybe there is some underlying spirituality, the force,
Okay.
that ties us together.
We've gone off in a couple different directions here, but I think either could be valid and maybe possible in this year ahead. But I do feel better about diplomatic relations, I have to say, seeing that card.
It just looks good, doesn't it? It looks better.
Yes. Hot spots that we need to watch out for or worry about in the world, or hot button issues, between the countries in the year ahead. Oh,
It's the Pope. The Vatican is going to declare war against everyone. No, it's not. But it is the King of Cups.
I totally want him to retract that statement.
I totally retract the statement. There's no way that the Pope would declare war, that the Vatican would declare war.
Why did you say, is it because of his hat, his crown, that you think it looks Pope-like?
Well, the King of Cups often reminds me of a priest or a priestly type, so I'm just going to say that. I know I should be a little bit more modern than that. But, okay, so this is the King of Cups.
Yeah, and it's in hot spots and whatnot. I'm a little confused about this, other than I think what we have to maybe watch out for, what could be a hot spot, is, resources. Maybe even water to some degree is an issue. But resources, and what we depend on from overseas sources. Because now that I'm seeing the water, I'm thinking that's what could be an issue in the year ahead.
Well, is this always about threats, or is it about...
This is the question, hot spots to look out for.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is about threats, but this is. So how does the card relate to that? When I look at that card and I think of the symbology, I'm looking at overseas. I see that there could be issues over water. Let's talk about this a little bit, because let's think about the shipping, the canal, in the Gulf, in the Mideast. Okay, the Middle East, there's issues from time to time with Iran. And so this could be about issues related to things happening on water. Water could be a hot button issue. Another example is, isn't there issues between North Korea and Japan over, or is it China and Japan over some island that's owned? I think it's China and Japan. And, there's sometimes issues about the water. There's also issues about the water with North Korea and South Korea, and what's the free zone, what happens if you pass a certain line. So that's what I'm thinking. This is where I'm leaning with this one.
Look at that throne in the rising waters. Maybe the hot spot is the idea of rising waters and who will be able
climate?
to be above them. So I'm wondering too, like the King of Cups, is he also the King of Floods?
Hot spots could, hurricanes are increasing and stuff like that. So I mean, think of Puerto Rico coming to mind, getting hit with different things. They had an earthquake. So I'm thinking,
symbolic of the weather.
It could be symbolic of that as well. So there's a few things that we could look out for here.
Okay.
And also the other thing is, let's not forget that the U.S. and the Soviet Union have been playing a bit of cat and mouse with warships and airplanes of late. And so, that could also be an issue in the year ahead. Okay? So I'm calling it on that. And the focus of where global relations will be, let's just say, how will things be, globally and internationally with other countries a year from now? Well, I think in December, well, I'm saying not a year from now,
At
because
the
let's
end
say
of
at the end of
December.
December 2020, it looks as though we end the year with something new, whether it's new agreements, a new undertaking that brings people together on something that's growthful for a change,
There's
nothing
a
that breaks
spirit
us
of
apart.
adventure. There's a
Yeah.
spirit of welcoming other cultures. I see the
Because of
Sphinx
the
in there
Sphinx.
that isn't in the original card, but
That's
it's
true.
a modern after interpretation. And I see a questing spirit, and I see America becoming what it used to be, maybe by the end of next year. The idea of being more trustworthy and being capable of respecting other cultures.
That's what we have
Wouldn't that
for
be nice?
when the, now that's what we see through the tarot cards. Of course, things are liable to shift and change, but let's just call it on that. And do we want to recap? We
So
do.
let's do our recap.
Yep.
And our first card was that the first card? Yeah, the reverse Nine of Wands.
Yes, and that was for trade and economic relations, and basically that was telling us that, I think that we're just not trusting each other a lot. I think that's a big theme.
There's some grumbling, and it's complicated. Some people feel like they're not really up for it, but they know that they have to be in a way.
It feels like our trade partners or our trade partners and economically they're looking at us as if they're not sure whether they can trust us and vice versa. I think that's going both ways here. So it's going to be a little bit of rocky waters, I think, in the trade department.
That may have been slightly hinted at in
The king of you're talking about
previous reading.
the king of spades, right? Swords reversed.
It's true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so our next card was the Three of Pentacles upright.
And that's diplomatic relations. And as I said, it seems as though,
Mostly good.
it looks as though we're going to maybe not, how should I say this? How we'll try to communicate our activities, our desires before we act on them. It seems as though we're going to be trying to craft a better way to communicate with other countries. Diplomatic relations seems to be on the improve next year.
There's some sort of admiration or advancement of cultures and spirituality and arts and things like that, and just extending our like for others and our diplomacy through appreciation of those things.
And the third card was hot spots or things to look out for. And the King of Cups is generally a really good card, so it's a little challenging to read in this position. But every tarot card can fit. And if you look at that card, there's a huge emphasis there on water. And I do feel that hot spots we have to watch out for are water related. Whether it's related to boundaries, whether crossing boundaries, whether it's related to just retaliatory acts on water, whether it's related to piracy, because we know piracy is even a problem from time to time. There's going to be some issues related to water. This is what we have to watch for. And you took
my
a spin.
indication was that maybe it's because there are some rising water concerns. I'm thinking of Venice and other countries or places where they are, parts of Britain. I guess they're talking about this being an issue. Parts of Florida, my goodness.
Mm-hmm. And
So
then finally, the focus of it by December 2020, where we'll be at by December of 2020, is some new adventures, some new opportunities, something growthful, something that will actually maybe bring people together on a creative project or something that benefits people. I think it's very positive.
It feels trustful. It feels like something people really would trust, and it seems to be respectful of other cultures.
Mm-hmm. So overall, I think global relations, let's just keep our fingers crossed, for the most part are better, except for the trade sector. I do sense there are problems there. And hotspots, well, we'll see how that turns out.
So join us next time in a week or so when we will have our next card.
Which will be, I've got that right here, Oh my, we're going to be tackling weather and climate in the U.S. in 2020.
And this will be the next part of the USA predictions for 2020 from TFT Tarot for Today.
Divine Dabblings with
Oberon.
and me, Banshee.
It's been our pleasure to help you see the year ahead.
Take care and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.